The FOLLOWIG is a fan summary, for entertainment purpose, only which is not intended to replace the original series. We do not own the anime, music, artwork, or the lyrics, all rights reserved to their respective owners. This is for people's enjoyment only. Our story begins on a battlefield. High above in the sky, a solar eclipse darkened the sun, and the surroundings glowed in a blood-red hue. At the bottom of the battlefield, several large mountains adorned with stone masks protruded. Numerous steel pillars jutted out from the ground. A demon-like fish monster with 6 red eyes and sharp teeth roared loudly, creating eerie sounds as saliva flew through the air. Opposite the demon-like fish monster stood a man with a backpack on his back, carrying provisions and a sleeping bag. His hair was somewhat longer and unkempt, and his face reflected the panic that had seized him. Bravely, he faced the attack of the fish monster with a knife and screamed loudly. However, fear was unmistakable in his face as he confronted the creature. Despite the frightening situation, the man skillfully countered the fish monster's attack. With his small knife, he struck the monster in the mouth, causing it to lose some of its purple blood. However, the demon-like monster did not give up easily. Driven by instincts, it continued to attack the older man. The sharp teeth came closer to his body, and saliva reached threateningly close to his face. Nevertheless, the man did not give up, although he trembled and fear grew within him. With gritted teeth, he bravely continued to fight, his small knife in the mouth of the demon-like fish monster. Eventually, the monster succumbed to its injuries and collapsed to the ground. Exhausted, the young man wiped the disgusting saliva and monster blood from his face. Completely out of breath, he realized that he was now able to kill a monster on his own, without relying on help. Suddenly, his gaze shifted to a mountain of monster corpses as another person unexpectedly approached him and shouted. The unkempt man looked up and saw his comrades fighting much larger and more dangerous monsters. Some were larger than buildings, others could fly in the sky and had the shape of dragons crossed with bats. The entire battlefield looked impressively epic in the blood-red glow of the solar eclipse. Annoyed and angry, his comrades asked the man what he was up to. They reminded him that his task was to collect the loot from the monsters and carry out his job as a carrier. Mockingly, they asked if he thought they had hired him just to stand around and be lazy. The unkempt man stuttered briefly, apologized, and the arrogant comrades turned away offended, calling him a useless carrier, and resumed their work by killing more demon-like monsters without paying further attention to him. The man just stood there as the wind of the battlefield passed by him, and a simple "damn" escaped his mouth to describe his situation. The world had changed after the discovery of the abyss, another dimension where monsters lived that existed only in fantasy. At the same time, transcendent powers awakened in humans destined to defeat these monsters and explore the abyss. With this discovery, the personal benefit of society shifted from the personality and effort of an individual to the rank with which one had awakened. A high rank guaranteed a privileged life with all amenities. After the announcement from his comrades, the unkempt man immediately set to work collecting the loot from the slain monsters. He discovered a small purple gem sparkling among the corpses. As he looked at the gem in his hand, a sad expression came over him. He had failed to awaken and was relegated to the role of a carrier, burdened with carrying the loads and goods of those who had awakened. At 35 years old, he hadn't even managed to open a status window. It was clear to him that as long as he remained unawakened, he could never lead the magnificent life of his comrades. The unkempt man turned to his comrades and shouted that he was now finished, having dispatched all the monsters on this side and recovered their treasures. Suddenly, the man froze, his pupils dilated, and the sweat on his skin turned cold. His gaze fell on the battlefield in front of him, where all his comrades lay dead on the ground. His eyes continued scanning, and he spotted the 2 comrades who had insulted and bossed him around just a few minutes ago. The man's expression remained unchanged as he contemplated what kind of monster was capable of such a massacre. Suddenly, he heard a voice telling him that he was the only one left. The man turned around and saw a monster with 2 huge horns and a smooth face with only 2 slits for eyes. The monster also had multiple arms and its entire lower body was made of black-purple energy, while the upper body was covered with many skulls. The overall appearance of the monster suggested that it was no ordinary creature. This assumption was confirmed when it was revealed that this monster held the SSS rank and bore the name Asmodeus. The monster's eyes glowed blood red, just like the battlefield itself. Panicking, the unkempt man turned, instinctively drew his small dagger, and prepared to attack. However, Asmodeus only raised some of its hands and used its magic before the man could react. Due to Asmodeus's attack, the man lost his right arm, which held his dagger. In pain, the man screamed and fell to the ground, reaching with his other hand to the wound, trying to stop the bleeding. After a brief moment of pain and screaming, his instincts took over again, and he turned towards Asmodeus once more. His eyes were bright red from pain, and in this situation, he wondered what monster this was. Before he could fully comprehend the situation again, the unkempt man, with tears in his eyes, froze once more. Asmodeus extended two of its hands and used its magic, creating a veil from both fingers that flew towards the man's forehead. The point on his forehead where the veil hit began to bleed terribly, while Asmodeus's eyes continued to glow. In this desperate situation, the unkempt man wondered if he would die and let memories of his life pass before his eyes. His parents died in a car accident, he was endlessly bullied in school, and his life was ignored because he hadn't awakened. He couldn't believe that his life would end now, after only carrying the loot and belongings of the awakened and working as a carrier. As Asmodeus continued to use his magic, the unkempt man cursed one last time and tried to awaken himself. Blood dripped from his cheeks to the ground, and one of the droplets shone brightly. In that moment, the man fulfilled all the conditions to initiate his awakening. Suddenly, he found himself in a kind of galactic cosmos, and before him stretched a glowing golden staircase, at the top of which stood an astral body with long hair emitting tremendous energy. The unkempt man was amazed when he saw the astral body, still not entirely conscious. It took a moment to realize that he was no longer being attacked by Asmodeus and could move freely again. He turned around and saw the horrifying form of Asmodeus, just standing next to his own corpse. The man wondered why Asmodeus had stopped moving. Meanwhile, the astral body descended the stairs, read the man's thoughts, and amused himself that the man focused on Asmodeus stopping. The unkempt man turned away from Asmodeus and asked the astral body who he was. The astral body responded with a counter-question, saying, "Who really knows, and that some might call him a king." However, he added that the man shouldn't worry about it. The astral body, suddenly sitting on a chair, explained that he would now transfer all his authority to the unkempt man. The man looked up incredulously, wondering about the king and authority, and what the astral body would talk about. He also considered whether Asmodeus was responsible for what was happening. The astral body once again read the man's thoughts and pointed out that it was not good to be so suspicious. The man opened his eyes in surprise. The astral body stretched his right hand forward, compressed the entire galactic cosmos in front of him, and explained that he admired the will and persistence of the young unkempt man, and that's why he had chosen him. At the same time, he emphasized that it would be better if such wonders did not happen again. As he explained this, he continued to compress the galaxy behind him until a bright light shone. Before the young man could stop the astral body and ask more questions, it was too late. The astral body, with a grin on his face and long hair covering his eyes, bid farewell with laughter. He said the young man just had to wait, and one day he would understand. When that day came, he looked forward to meeting again. Completely powerless, the young man sat there and stared into the bright light. As he gazed, hypnotized, the actual environment appeared. The astral body used his magic, and a demon dragon with multiple mouths and eyes rushed from above towards them. The last words of the astral body were, "My key." When the young man regained consciousness, he heard a mocking voice telling him that he had just been sleeping. Another voice sarcastically asked if he dared to ignore them and pretend to be asleep. The man slowly opened his eyes, and before fully opening them, he heard that it was time to wake him up. As he opened his eyes, the young man saw a hand coming towards him and heard the words, "Good morning," after which he immediately received a slap. As he recoiled from the impact of the slap, he was asked if he was already awake. Before Kim Tae-hyun stood 3 other students, one with green hair, the next with brownish hair, and the last with gray-black hair. All 3 appeared to be typical school bullies, with grins on their faces and evident enjoyment in hitting our protagonist. The brown-haired bully informed our protagonist that he should only speak when spoken to and slapped Tae-hyun again. Tae-hyun immediately recognized his counterpart as Bae Hyuk-soo. While wondering what his old high school bullies were up to, he received another slap from Bae Hyuk-soo, causing the other 2 to burst into laughter. During the blows, Bae Hyuk-soo asked Tae-hyun why he wasn't responding. Our protagonist had to clear his head and realize that he had just been in the abyss and tortured by Asmodeus. Bae Hyuk-soo continued to deliver slaps, while Tae-hyun was still lost in thought, pondering what had just happened. His thoughts lingered on the words, "authority," he had heard from the king. He opened his eyes and saw a status window on the side of his body with his full name Kim Tae-hyun, his age, 19 years, his current rank F, and his skill. As Kim Tae-hyun realized, he looked closely at the name and age, recognizing that he had been sent back 16 years into the past. While Bae Hyuk-soo continued to enjoy slapping, Kim Tae-hyun started to laugh. Bae Hyuk-soo held Kim Tae-hyun by the collar of his former white shirt and prepared for another slap but refrained and let Tae-hyun go, causing him to fall backward. Along with the other 2 bullies, he wondered what had suddenly happened to Kim Tae-hyun and what was wrong with him. The bullies suspected that Kim Tae-hyun had gone completely crazy because he was still laughing. Nevertheless, Bae Hyuk-soo didn't give up, insulted Kim Tae-hyun again, and threatened that more beatings would come if he continued to laugh like that. But then, Kim Tae-hyun launched a counterattack and hit Bae Hyuk-soo with a solid blow to the face, sending him flying. The other 2 bullies were surprised that Kim Tae-hyun had dared to fight back and were somewhat overwhelmed by the current situation. Kim Tae-hyun grinned and understood the significance of his age of 19 and the 16-year time travel for him. With tears in his eyes, he realized that he had finally awakened as well. The bullies were still in shock, and several seconds of immobility passed. Kim Tae-hyun wiped away the tears from his eyes with the hand he had just used to defend himself for the first time in his life and was determined to move forward. After these few seconds of silence, during which he wiped the tears from his cheek, the other 2 bullies in the group came to their senses and wanted to avenge their friend. The green-haired one activated his ability, enveloping his left hand in ice, while the last of the 3 channeled his ability into his left hand and ignited a large fireball. Both rushed towards Kim Tae-hyun, visibly angry. As they charged at our protagonist, they asked him if he had finally gone crazy and how a stupid nobody like him could dare to defend against their leader. Kim Tae-hyun skillfully dodged the fireball thrown by the brown-haired boy and simultaneously countered. With an impressive uppercut, he hit the chin of the brown-haired bully, incapacitating him with a single blow. He then delivered a powerful kick to the stomach of the other, effortlessly taking him down as well. While defeating the 2, he contemplated that in his previous life as an unawakened, he had done everything to survive for 35 years, from basic physical skills to reading and retaining information about the abyss and its monsters, including their abilities. He had also acquired martial arts skills. Although the bullies had already taken some powerful kicks and punches, they were still determined to avenge their leader and rushed at Kim Tae-hyun again. However, he, with the skills he learned in his previous life, knew that there was no way to lose against such untrained thugs. So, he once again used his combat abilities to defeat the 2 bullies and bring them back to reality. Even though he had accomplished this, Kim Tae-hyun had to take a moment to catch his breath and admit that his current body was not in the physical condition it was 35 years ago. He would need to undergo physical training again. Suddenly, He turned around and heard the leader of the bullies swearing, unable to believe that Kim Tae-hyun had just awakened. The leader rubbed the injuries on his face, stood up, activated his ability as well, causing his entire back to be adorned with stone, and insulted Kim Tae-hyun again. As he continued to use his ability, transforming almost his entire body into stone, he declared that he would no longer show mercy and intended to kill him. The leader of the bullies activated his ability, Stone Skin, which was on the C rank. Immediately after Bae Hyuk-soo had used his ability, he was determined to take revenge on Kim Tae-hyun and wanted to hit him with a powerful fist. Thanks to his past experience, Kim Tae-hyun was able to dodge repeatedly. Unfortunately, with time running out, Bae Hyuk-soo caught him lightly on the cheek. Kim Tae-hyun looked up and saw Bae Hyuk-soo about to unleash a stronger attack from above. As Bae Hyuk-soo attempted to crush Kim Tae-hyun with both hands, the entire roof of the school building trembled, and a larger hole appeared. The massive explosion created a fine dust cloud that gradually began to disperse. Bae Hyuk-soo was seen standing amidst the dust cloud. Kim Tae-hyun managed to evade this attack as well and immediately launched a counterattack. He pulled his fist back from behind and prepared to finish off Bae Hyuk-soo. However, Bae Hyuk-soo noticed Kim Tae-hyun's intentions, turned around in time, and attempted to counter. Bae Hyuk-soo's counter narrowly missed Kim Tae-hyun again, but Kim Tae-hyun could land a direct punch to Bae Hyuk-soo's face. Surprised, Kim Tae-hyun realized that he hadn't inflicted any damage on Bae Hyuk-soo. His awakened ability protected him, and Kim Tae-hyun hit the stone embedded in the middle of Bae Hyuk-soo's face. Kim Tae-hyun realized that he had injured himself and that any further blows from him would only cause more harm since he had no chance of penetrating Bae Hyuk-soo's defense. Bae Hyuk-soo didn't give Kim Tae-hyun any time and continued to attack. With a powerful punch from his fist encased in stones, he struck Kim Tae-hyun hard, causing him to fly backward and fall to the ground. Kim Tae-hyun had visible injuries all over his body. His hair was as unkempt and messy as in his past, blood ran down his forehead, nose, and mouth. Nevertheless, he refused to give up and tried to get back up immediately. Bae Hyuk-soo slowly approached Kim Tae-hyun, arrogantly stating that he should come to his senses and realize that he should know his limits. He shouldn't play the hero but should just be the victim he had always been. Bae Hyuk-soo condescended to Kim Tae-hyun once again, clenched his fist, and intended to end it. Finally, he asked what Kim Tae-hyun planned to do now and whether he would run away again or continue to fight with his awakened ability. As Kim Tae-hyun lay in the debris, he had to think that each awakened ability had a rank. These abilities started with rank F, equivalent to the strength of an ordinary person, and ranged up to rank S. People with an S rank were called monsters because their physical talents and abilities were exponentially enhanced. In this situation, Kim Tae-hyun realized that his skill was ranked F. He had never heard or read the name or ability of this skill. All he could think about was the rank and that it was the worst one. With this rank, he had no chance against Bae Hyuk-soo, who possessed a rank C ability. Nevertheless, Kim Tae-hyun felt an inner drive that this was not the moment to lose. Bae Hyuk-soo suddenly widened his eyes and was astonished. Kim Tae-hyun rose, supporting himself with his hands on his knees, and a terrible red-black energy surrounded him. The black-red energy manifested from behind, stirred the air, and continued to envelop him. Bae Hyuk-soo stood motionless, fascinated by the spectacle. He couldn't believe that Kim Tae-hyun had managed to awaken. His facial expression shifted from surprise to fear, and a few drops of sweat escaped him. Kim Tae-hyun looked down at his hand, wondering if the dark energy surrounding him was indeed his skill, predation. He could feel the magic following his will. Kim Tae-hyun shifted his gaze from his hand to Bae Hyuk-soo, his eyes turned red, and his expression changed. Bae Hyuk-soo impatiently and anxiously charged forward at full speed to end the fight. He wasn't exactly sure what was happening, but he was confident that it would stop if he killed the owner of the ability. However, Kim Tae-hyun merely extended a hand, enveloped in the dreadful red-black magic, and halted Bae Hyuksu's attack. This astonished Bae Hyuksu, who visibly struggled to maintain his assault. Kim Taehyun effortlessly defended against it, his eyes still fiery red, and his face showing determination. He turned the palm of his hand towards himself, clenched it into a fist, and once again employed another part of his magic. The stone armor that surrounded Bae Hyuksu was ripped from his body and absorbed, causing Kim Taehyun's dark red energy to disappear. The other students in the building across barely noticed this spectacle. Even when the dreadful red energy materialized again, forming a massive tornado, they remained oblivious. After the dust settled, Kim Taehyun, still surrounded by remnants of the energy, stood there and continued to extend his hand forward. In contrast, Bae Hyuksu lay unconscious and singed on the ground in front of Kim Taehyun. After the battle, Kim Taehyun needed a moment to catch his breath. When he realized that his ability was speaking to him, informing him that he had successfully stolen the ability of his target and gained a new skill, his rank upgraded from F to E. Shortly afterward, small rocks formed around Kim Taehyun, growing steadily until his hand, much like Bae Hyuksu's hand only a few minutes earlier, was completely encased in stone.